Chairman, fellow members of the Social Democratic Party, amidst the mixture of sadness and hope, nostalgia and occasional bitterness, which has characterized yesterday and today, I at least am establishing one precedent. I think I am the only member of the Gang of Four who has ever addressed the CSD from the rostrum and not from the platform. But it is perhaps not exactly a precedent, for I shall also presumably be the last. I have listened to every word of this debate, and well worth doing so from the point of view of understanding the conflicting emotions of the party. I have found it. My own broad views you all know. I continue to hold them with such continuing conviction that I would by no means, I would be glad to speak from any position for any length of time to produce the result that I regard as overwhelmingly desirable for the future both of social democracy and of an effective political choice for the British people. Last week at Blackpool, I was fortified in my belief that we can make an honest and balanced marriage with the Liberal Party. The outcome of the negotiations provides a more than adequate basis. The Constitution is an improvement, certainly on the Liberals' parties, perhaps even on our own pretty good 1981-2 model. The policy statement is thoroughly acceptable. I am not worried that it does not go into vast detail. It would be a very odd thing to try to make detailed policy part of the fundamental law of any party. It was certainly not so with this party, and it has hardly been so with any other party, British or foreign. The nearest to an exception is perhaps the Labour Party with its Clause 4, but that is hardly the most encouraging example. But despite the strength of my own conviction, I by no means find it impossible to understand the doubts and the torn minds of many of those who have spoken. I found Jackie Horn arguing with herself in public impressive and indeed moving. I think it is legitimate for people to ask why, as I now urge them to join a merged party with the Liberals, I wanted to set up a separate party in the first place. It is reasonable to ask, but I do not have difficulty in answering. What I proclaimed from the beginning was the need for a realignment of British politics which would unite those who agreed with each other but were separated by the artificial barriers of traditional party politics, and which would also uncouple those who fundamentally disagreed with each other but were locked in a loveless union by a fear that the surrounding sea would be still less hospitable than the bickering raft. The Liberals were clearly to be involved in this realignment, but I did not think we could do this without the catalyst of a new party, nor could I judge in advance without working with the Liberals, whether our compatibility was sufficient for full fusion. After 7 years, I judge that it is. And that, I believe, is the view of most of those with grassroots experience. In return, I may perhaps be allowed to express a little bewilderment of my own. When I look back on the great campaigns from Crosby to Greenwich, which we fought in the closest association with the Liberals, I find it difficult to understand how anyone can have gone through them with pleasure and commitment while believing that the Liberals were a rotten lot with whom we ought not to have been mixed up. Someone yesterday in the debate drew attention to David Owen's interview in the Daily Telegraph, in which he said, "We find ourselves manoeuvred into the alliance with the Liberals, which was never, ever envisaged." I think there's just a little rewriting of history in that. But that apart, it worries me because it casts considerable doubt on the frankness of the partnership of principle approach on which we fought the elections of 1983 and 87. But it also mystifies me about the drafting of option 1 to our July ballot. That question was entirely drafted by the anti-mergerites. They rejected Shirley's suggestion of a third... They suggested of a third go-it-alone option. All they offered as an alternative to merger was a still closer alliance. But if they were manoeuvred into an unenvisaged and unwanted alliance in the first place, what was the validity of offering to make it still closer? This is not an academic or historical point. In my view, the most eloquent anti-merger speech yesterday came from Danny Finkelstein. It was certainly applauded, the loudest and longest. But what was the crescendo which provoked that applause? It was an attack on the alleged total flabbiness of the new party's constitution, composition, policy and ethos. It was the future casting a long shadow before itself. I always hesitate to predict events before they have happened, but I will make one sad prediction, which is that within a year, attacks upon the new party will have become the major political stock-in-trade of the schismatic party, fire eclipsing its attacks upon the Conservative Party and very likely upon the Labour Party too. How in these circumstances can anyone delude themselves that the party within our party which came out in this hall last night is the friendly pursuit of effective alliance by another route? The realistic choice is this.
1 minute to go.
Either we go forward, committed to a united radical party with a good chance of recovery over a little period of much of the verve and vigour which so excited us in the early days, or we falter and turn the left centre of British politics into a scene of pathetic chaos, which will turn our supporters and potential supporters away in dismay, and over which the two old ugly sisters of British politics will chortle and rejoice. Do not let us mistake this great opportunity for imaginative and responsible statesmanship. Let us have some regard to our duty to the electorate. We like saying that they need us, so I believe they do. But by God, we need them too. And let us show a greater feeling for the realities of politics, for our ability to put the divisions behind us and to go forward, offering them an effective choice, which unless we seize this historic moment, we will lose and lose for a generation.
Gwynoro, Jones, John Cartwright, to be followed by Tom McNally.
Gwynoro Jones, a social democrat long before the SDP was born. I used the term social democracy when I was a Labour Member of Parliament, because social democracy is an ideal. It encouraged and was nurtured further by the birth of the Social Democratic Party, and the SDP brought into British politics a new verve, a new desire to win and hope. It also encouraged a rather lethargic Liberal Party. After 200 years of being in the wilderness for a long time, you deserve on the odd occasion to be lethargic. And we gave them hope, and we gave Britain hope. But now we have a more realistic opportunity to change events yet again. And that was the desire, that was the aim, to provide that force that would be radically alternative and would be different to the Tory party and would replace the Labour Party eventually. That was the aim, that was our desire. What's the advantage to the new party? Well, we now know where we went wrong. We haven't got a crystal ball gaze. We can look at the record. We lost 2 general elections because the British people do not desire pacts. They do not desire 2 parties. They did not desire 2 sets of policies. They do not desire 2 leaders. They want a coherent force. And that is one of the main opportunities that we now have. Over the last few years, we lost our way. The message got blurred. We confused people, and we confounded them in the confusion. Now we have the opportunity again. We confused them because we set out to win in 1981, and we are talking of hung parliaments in 1987. That is why we confused them. In 1981, we were going to break the mold. We were going to change the system. We were going to win. In 1987, we were talking of hung parliaments, coalition with Mrs. Thatcher, campaigning to lose. And in the process of campaigning to lose, I've got to give it to the leaders of the alliance then, didn't they do it well? We dare not have a rerun of the last 4 years. We have got to go forward. And I appeal to those who are not with us at this moment in time and who are not confident of being with us. Think again. You cannot change British politics on hero worship. You cannot change British politics. You cannot change British politics by the belief in the men of destiny. The graveyards of British politics is full of indispensable men. Full of them. The challenge is to replace Labour. It is our opportunity, ultimately, to be in government. And I tell you something else. Remember the last few years in those by-election campaigns. Let's make politics exciting again.
With a new leader. The Welsh Liberal leader, Ceredigion and Pembroke North MP Geraint Howells, has announced that he will not stand for the job, though he has every intention of staying